good evening, and welcome to the first A Walk Down Memory Lane. This show has been designed to take you back in the day when former players used to don their jerseys for their respective clubs and shoot for glory. The co-host of this show is Garrett Punchy Deal. Good evening, Garrett.
Good evening to you.
How are you?
Very good. Good.
This should be very intriguing for you because not only was it an era that you were involved in, but you get the opportunity to reminisce with a lot of these guys who were at the top of their games back in the day. We do have with us Dennis Brown, who captained Bermuda and the Somerset Trojans, and we're just awaiting, he's having a bit of technical issues, Jack Castle from PHC. But Punchy, what are you hoping this show achieves throughout its lifetime?
Well, before we came live, Dennis asked me about the month of games, the important games, the games that bring back so many memories that was never recorded, and it's just funny that we can now at least we discuss it. And I could talk about the finer points or what I thought when I first saw Dennis play, and how I thought Dennis, when I saw Dennis play, I was like, whoa, about Dennis. Anyway, but it just, so much has been, it's been lost. So now it's memories that we think about, that we hold dear to our heart for our clubs and the people we played beside and who influenced us. So this is really one of these happy shows, I call it. I can be really, not like the Sunday ones where we're always, like stiff, but it's just addressing the players and like Dennis. I'm just glad to speak to Dennis about this.
Well, go ahead, Punchy. Talk to Dennis. Talk to Dennis.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk to me. I'm just riding for the
I always say about when I the people I played with, like my brothers, like Dennis, just who influenced you. And when I first saw Dennis, I always thought Dennis, no joke. You see him come out of the changing room, don't speak to nobody on the side, tunnel vision, boom. And I was like, oh, and then I watched him play. So I was really impressed at a young age too. So, it was starting to show, but I just hope this show provides a lot of people like ourselves that played the game, that we could bring back the memories and say, oh yeah, I remember that particular point, especially the people that helped us along the way, that influenced us, that who have never been given full credit for that.
Right. Dennis, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, guys.
One of the first things that a lot of people will remember you across the island would be at the senior level. But take us through what the junior level was like for you as you were making your way into that senior team.
Okay, good night again, guys. My foundation started at West End Primary School. At 9 years old, I was invited by the PE teacher, Mr. Lionel Turner, who had a big influence on me coming through and joining the Somerset program, because Mr. Turner was, at that time, nowadays he'll be called the technical director of the program. And Mr. Turner was very instrumental in Somerset having a very successful youth program by having community leagues with teams from different parts of the Sanders community. So we had teams from Dockyard and different neighborhoods in Somerset that made up the Somerset Community League. And I was invited to train with at 9 years old, and at that time, which has bantams and juniors, under 16s and under 18s. And at 9, I was invited to train with Somerset under 16s. And it took me about a year. I played my first under 16 game at 10 when I was still in primary school. And under Dwayne Trix Richardson. Dwayne Trix Richardson is a big influence on a lot of the players that I played with coming to Somerset, and that's where my foundation was built. So I played, like I said, from 10 to about 13. By the time I was 13, I was playing with the under 18s. And then by 14, I was training with the senior team once a week. And then by 16, my headmaster, Mr. Horton, put me into the senior team at 16, and the rest is basically history. So I had a good foundation in Somerset, taught us a lot of discipline. Demetrius Richardson was very instrumental in that. You know, at 11, 12 years old, we're doing like 200 push-ups a training session and stuff like that. He always put it into our minds about fitness levels, and that was like from 12, 13 years old. So, and that stayed with me until I retired. So I had a good foundation in Somerset, and no regrets. And you know, as we go along, I talk about the battles that we had with PHC and Village, but they were good battles. You know, the guys, and you will see like the guys that played back in the day. I mean, we go to war on the pitch, but you know, after the game, you know, there's a lot of love, shake hands, hug, you know, have libations after the games, and most of us, I say like 99% of us are still friends right up until today. So, you know, those are beautiful days. You know, like I said, my foundation was through Mr. Lionel Turner and Demetrius Richardson in the Somerset program.
Well, good evening, Mr. Castle. How are you today?
All's well. How you guys doing, man? Nice to be a part.
Very good, Jack. Very good.
We just started off with Dennis. We know about your prowess at the senior level of PHC, but take us through your junior days of football, making your way to that senior program.
Oh, got PHC. My. Oh well, you're taking me way back. I can go back. I can go back to starting football at Bernard Park in the little mini micro league down there when it wasn't even club football. I remember like Newcastle, all the teams had like English names. Then moving up to work and living out of work, I stayed right next to PHC. So that was the team that I was going to play for. And right from, it wasn't mini minors or anything. I think I remember like being, I don't know, like 13 and trying to play junior football, like just going and sitting on the bench and never playing because I was the little smallest fellow on the field. and I always trained. I live right next to PHC, so I can remember PHC blacks, PHC whites. I used to go with the whites all over the place and never played, just train. And then the minor league started. I can remember one of my first coaches was Elroy Rattery, and then it was minor football, then bantam football. I didn't play much junior football because as soon as I went 16, I was injected. NIPS had injected me right into PHC's senior team. So I was like the first of the junior players, or the like some of the guys that I played junior football, Sinclair and Ed Liprin and all those guys that I played bantam football. I went and started training with the senior team. So my experience in 76, I remember I'm thinking in 73 or something like that, PHC won the triple. So my experience of playing, I got to play with a lot of the guys that didn't like guys in the junior team, they didn't get to play with. Sammy and some of those guys didn't get to play with like the Roger Butterfields, the Carson Beans, right? I I I got to play with Mop hung around for a little while, but David Frost. I remember playing with David Frost. I remember playing with Cal White. Um, those guys. I remember playing with Lou Trot, right? I was like the baby in the team. And then like the next guy too, like Stanley Ray. I remember playing like being a part. Allison Thomas, Frankie Furbit, so a lot of those guys. And then like my age group came, like the Eds and the Sinclair Librans, and those guys caught up. But when they caught up, those guys have retired. You know what I'm saying? So then came the next group of players that I was familiar with. And hung around because Mop was the leader of the team. Mop, Beaver. Then it was a time when Cecil came back to PHC. He came back and remember Cho Smith. I played with Cho Smith. I caught a little bit of Bobby Martin at PHC. So when I talk football, I like it's I'm had some good memories because I played with a few different generations of players. So I caught the end of the older guys, which gave me a lot. Then it was Mop and the Beaver and the Cecils and that group, and then Ellie came on board, and well, Nips was the coach. Well, it was some little turbulence times, and then Nips came back, right? Smokey, I remember playing under Smokey Thompson for a quick minute at PHC, and I got to play with Derek Russell. Never played with Dale because he was always away. But Derek was my teammate. I got Johnny came back. I played with Johnny. So, when I talk football and I talk my club, I have fond memories and it's nothing, like going from being like the baby with all these guys. And this is I'll give you a true story. This is a true story. When I was 16, playing with Mop, Frost, Beaver, and all those guys, I thought those guys was like 20, 21, maybe 22, right? It wasn't until a couple years ago we was at a 60th birthday party, and Pee Wee Crackle, the goalkeeper, who I thought I was a little bit closer, but he was 60 and a couple years ago, and I thought I was a little bit closer to him. But I said to Beaver, I was like, okay, if Kruxka is 60, you guys have got to be like 61, 62. Beaver says Beaver says 62. Man, I'm good. I'm 65 good, 66. That's what it says. 66. I'm 67 good, 68. I'm like, what? Right? And I'm like, what? I always thought I was a little bit closer. So what that's saying to me is when I was 16, those guys were men. They was in their mid-20s. They was only back in football, and not all these years. I thought it was a little bit closer. And then it's like, well, remember, you was the baby in the team. I guess I was the baby. But those are some of the good things that I have with some of the players. I feel very fortunate that the club I played with, and I played my whole career with PHC. And it's been the good and the bad. We went down with the FAM, what comeback. We came back strong, and we came back with a lot of the younger players that I played with. And then the next generation was the Frankie Mings and the Stovels and that group, and Kevin Deal. Well, Kevin came just before Frankie and Stovell and all of those guys. And Mike, remember when Mike came, so it's been some good years of football, the good old days. And then Dennis came, and he is a nuisance. But I remember playing against Punchy too. I remember playing against Punchy. Punchy
Yeah.
was always a nuisance. You know, Goodall was
Yeah.
always a nuisance.
Yeah, Punchy, get him, Punchy, get him.
You know, so
Yeah. Well, I was kind of doing all of that. I was losing my weight, losing my speed after that.
right.
But
And then came the Dennis Bronze and the
oh yeah,
the
right.
Kevin Grants and all of those guys. They came just look. Remember, my youth team came just after the 76 youth team, which had a lot of bullets in it. You know, had a lot of bullets in the 76 youth team. Then my youth team came, which was Charlie Emery, myself, Philip Smith, Mal Bean, Skipper, Clevie Wade, Stevie Dixon, Stevie Riley, Kevin Bailey, Pookie Mendes, Charlie Marshall. Come on, man. Don't get me started. Don't get me. Look, this is good stuff, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I got that. Yeah, Jack, yeah, it is good stuff. Exactly. You call all those names about. I've got a couple of questions for both of you, or I'm gonna make a comment about both of you. Let's start with Dennis. You know, when I was 16 and 13 and 15, when we used to catch a bus to go to games of Somerset when Norfolk were like, you know, just starting up, and because you know your history of Somerset and PHC is like the history is much more the longevity than North Village. But when I used to catch a bus and I go and watch Somerset play against Devon Cows, and you watch like Marcus Douglas playing against Kenny Camp. And Dennis, I want to say to you, when I first saw you play, you remind me of, it's like a replica of like you're a replica of like Kenny Camp, the smoothness. And I could go on with the center halves that played for Somerset. Just like Jack, I think Jack, you started as right fullback or attacking right fullback. Am I correct?
And that's right. I you know who actually made me a fullback was Donald Dane and
Yes.
Donald Dane and Winston Cotrot in the youth team.
So my question to Dennis, or you can enlighten us, Dennis and Jack. You know, because at the time we were just thinking about the people that we were watching to kind of like say, I'm gonna emulate them. So Dennis, you like when I first saw you, I was like, he just looks like a natural good center half from Somerset. And then I see Jack that remind me of when I said Jack played, like he looks like Derek Russell playing right fullback instead of left fullback. So Dennis, the question that you probably give us another question or just give us some information, but is that what Somerset was like made of? Because I think Somerset was made of like great center halves. Kenny Camp never used. You remind me of that. You never heard him shout. He just pointed and directed. He just pointed and directed. Jack was a little bit like when I saw Jack first saw Jack play. I was like, this guy just another version of a good right fullback for PHC. Up and down the line, can cross, can tackle. But just with both of you, it seems that your clubs, PHC and Somerset, just seem we're producing those players like yourself. Did you think? I just Dennis, you just remind me of Kenny Camp.
Yeah, back in the day, I played center half all my life, from primary school, and you hit the nail right on the head because Kenny Camp was actually my hero coming through because he actually did a lot for me off the field, taking me to games and stuff, and that's where I got to know his game and stuff, know his mentality. So his is definitely a big hero of mine, on and off the field. He also showed, like you said, his temperament. Although my temperament was a little different, I had a lot of passion, a lot of passion. But I had 2 or 3 real heroes when I was coming through. That's from center back, and I always looked at center backs. So Kenny Camp was my first center back hero. My second one was Marcus Douglas from Devonshire Colts, because he was the type of center back who I liked. He liked to go forward and I always like to go forward and add to the attack when the time allowed. And also my brother-in-law Danny Seymour, he was a big hero of mine coming through. So I'm had that center half mentality, and you know what Seymour is with his big mouth. I also had a big coming through. So we were a perfect match. But center back. When I was coming to, everybody wanted to play midfield. Everybody wanted to be a winger. Everybody wanted to play up front. My natural position was a goal scoring center back, because even though I played center back, even from the youth leagues, I always was able to score a lot of goals coming to, playing center back, going off of corners, taking penalties and stuff like that. So, that was my position. Kenny Can, Danny Seymour, Marcus Douglas, and then as I got into the first team, or watching different first division teams play, Joe Trott taught me a lot coming through. Randall Wally Baxter was special. Lorenzo Simons was special. He taught me so much, playing for the national team. I still have so much love for the guy right up to today. So yeah, man, back in the day, it was just so much quality, like Jack said, coming through. I started training Thompson's first team with like 14 once a week, 15, and it was more time put in. But I had guys coming through, or watching guys like George Freeman, Lance Brown, God bless his soul. A guy who two guys that really helped me out a lot when I first came through at Somerset was Larry Simmons, who to me was very underrated with his performances. That's the guy who really took me under his wing. Larry Simmons and Steve Bean. Those two guys were a couple of years older than me, but they actually brought me through in my first year in the first division. And nothing, like Jack said, nothing but good, beautiful memories. There was a lot of wars. I remember playing against Punchy, and telling these North Village guys, like, you're not going to make me go stupid tonight. So if you come up the middle, you're going to get a little crack.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's right. And the thing is, sorry, Dennis, to cut in, but even the influences I'm saying when I play, because I was really getting older then, much slower, but yeah, much easier to get the ball from there. But anyway, but the point that I'm saying is that I'm going to actually, I'm going to let Jack answer his other question. But because I do have, I think I got full statistics, how many goals you scored from set pieces. I wouldn't want to mark you from, I'm glad that I never had to mark you. And Jack, I'm sure Jack scored a lot of goals from the right back. So Jack, the question also, you add to what Dennis said, you look like a replica of good outside fullbacks at the time for PHC. And, right. When I first saw you play, I was like, whoa, this, your first touch was always good. Your pass over 20 and 30 yards was just excellent. And your marking was good, and your instructions, I thought, even were very good in terms of when I see you organizing defense from the wide position. So where did that influence come from?
Look, when it comes to the playing of the game, I don't think you will find any of the players of PHC that wouldn't say that Nips was, look, I have to give him a 10 for his coaching on the field. I have to give him a 10 for his off the field mannerisms, especially now being older. I really appreciate, because I wasn't, Sammy and myself was like his bad boys in the team. But as far as instruction, like Nips will pull me aside and say, look, I was a fullback. I came up as a attacking fullback, and Nips pulled me aside and said, look, I need you to play left back. I want to play right back. I'm playing right back for the youth team. I'm in the national team playing right back. I want to play right back. It's like, well, look, when you want me to play Kenny Brett down left back, you can do the job, right? So I would come to a game and Nips will have me playing left back. And then he's like, you're good enough to play that. And you could do the same things. And like Punchy said, he pretty much should, and like told me is, look, your strength, this is your strength. My strength was I was able to kick a ball over 30, 40 yards and hit you. Pinpoint. Going forward. Kicking, like kicking the ball. I didn't score a lot of goals, but when I did score goals from set pieces, I would put Vincent Cotrot down as somebody I idol when I saw him play, and then when I got to play under him at youth level, he was like teaching. He taught me how to smack the ball, look at the ball, follow through, and smack the ball. And the diagonal ball, that was one of my strengths. The diagonal ball, pinpointing. Look, Nips used to always say to me, space created, ball delivered, man arrived. Put the ball there. Those guys will get there. You know, and that went for Kenny, Sammy, Buller, and then came Kyle Leiper. He is probably truly, Kenny Burt is special. Sammy is special. Kevin Deal had the pace of Kyle Leiper. Kyle Leiper, and I could play with him up to today. And I know I can hit some ball scores and find Kyle Leiper. Because look, he was a treat to play with as a teammate before he went to play professional. But like Dennis said, Dennis played with some great guys. I played with 3 groups of great guys all the way up. Like it's you know, whenever we see each other, Dennis, Punchy is just a joy, man. Football is a joy, you know. But I will attribute our success at PHC, our coach, man. Our coach. I give my coach a 10+, right?
Well, he's watching it. He's watching and agreeing with a lot that you're saying there, because he said with the Kyle comment that's right. So good evening to Leroy Nips Lewis from Bermuda. So go ahead, Punch.
Well, as another question, I'm going to the questions that were asked because we're still going to memory lane. Dennis and Jack. There's a lot of guys that I see that Dennis, that I can call you and Jack that didn't really make. They were so good when I was coming along, but like you, I got pushed into the first team. Like you and Jack, I was 16, going 17, and got pushed up to Norfolk's first team. I was, like nothing mattered to me but football. But some of the guys I see that was when I was younger playing against some of the teams, I got called the names off, like Bingy Brinkman. Oh my God, Dennis, I don't know if you remember Bingy.
Bingy?
You ever heard about Bingy Brinkman?
Can't remember Bingy.
Oh my God. Myron Riley, who eventually left the country, but Myron Riley was a very good footballer.
Right.
And but I'm saying that with Somerset, it was so much talent there, just as PHC, because don't forget, Norfolk was still just we were building our program.
Right.
But some of the people, are there anything you and Jack, the guys that you felt, wow, they didn't make it. I wouldn't say make it well, but there was so much talent, but they just didn't get to work with the chances that we had. Can you call of any names that you could remember, you and Jack, that you say that guy was some player?
Probably for me, growing up in Somerset, there was one guy in particular coming to the youth program who And everybody in that era would always talk about Charlie Bunch Christopher, who
Charles.
to me was better than, had more tricks and skill than Kelly Simmons. And Kelly Simmons was one who could play. But this guy, Charlie Bunch Christopher, was unbelievable. Right up until he went like 16, 17, and then, you know, unfortunate circumstances happened in his life. But coming up in Thompson, we had so much talent. Like I remember the first part of the youth brigade when Lou Simmons, Larry, Courage Bell, Kevin Bailey, Stevie Roddy, that generation came through to combine with Tricks and George and them. And then, you know, and then the second part of my generation, I was the first of my group to go to, like Jack was, I was the first of my bantam guys and the junior guys to go to the senior team. And then you had guys like Troy Berkeley, who was unreal, a real match winner, a guy that I think he is an unsung hero in my team, in my era. Robert Goodchild is one of the most tidiest midfield players that I played with at club or international level. And Somerset had so much talent coming through the conveyor belt. And then it became a point whereby they had two teams. They had a first division, at that time it was first division, and they had a second division team. And then a lot of guys who couldn't really make the team, you know, eventually ventured on to Whitehall and played for Somerset Eagles. So, you know, it was always, you know, I mean, I can't say too much about those days, man, because those days bring back so much beautiful memories. Like even preparing for teams like PHC. PHC were the team that really made me sit up and pay attention about taking care of myself and making sure that I'm fit. Because if you weren't fit playing against PHC, you would be in trouble. If you didn't get your rest the night before against PHC, you talk about you're hanging out the night before, and then you're talking about Kenny Burke, Kevin Deal, Kyle came later, Sammy Spoon, Paula Anderson, Randy Gustavo, Frank Meaning, Jack being elusive, overlapping on the wings and stuff, Mike Deal. Those were battles, man. And PHC were the team that really made me sit up and pay attention about making sure that my body is right, getting my rest, and making sure that I'm ready to compete against these guys. Because every game against Somerset and PHC in those days, like in the 80s, was like a battle. It was like 4,000 or 5,000 spectators, and it's a battle. And then, you know, you heard Horton on one bench, and then you heard Neils on the other bench. You know what I mean? And, you know, this. And one of the things that really stood out to me is the respect that the PHC guys have for Neils. The amount of shouting that I heard Neils, Sammy! You know, but at the end of the day, man, those guys really, I love Neils right up to today, because Neils Lewis, I think he was before his time. He was before his time. Neils is probably one of the best coaches Bermuda's ever seen. You know, he took PH and he played to their strengths. PHC's strength was attacking. You know, I remember one season, you know, PHC was scoring against us, you know, at Rio. And one of our coaches at this time said, look, the only way we're going to be able to beat PHC, and this is a geriatric whatever. So he said, I don't want none of our, because what was happening was when our fullbacks, PHC's strikers never defended. Sammy didn't defend, Kevin didn't defend, and Kenny Burke didn't defend. So every time Somerset's defenders went forward, PHC's strikers stayed up. And caused Somerset on the counter-attack all the time. Go. So this game hurt. So we got a little philosophy, and the coach said, okay, I don't want, once you get to that halfway line, are the one none of you defenders good across your half-yard line, not even you, Captain Dennis Braun, not even you. And that tactic seemed to work, and we ended up beating PHC a couple of times. But at the end of the day, man, those guys, and they are North Village playing against Punchy and the tricky guys at Village, like Andrew and Dickie and Parks and Eddie, Charlie Emery, who will smack you at every chance. But I can't say enough about the battles and pleasure that I have playing against these guys and playing with these guys. I knew first met Jack. I was invited to his youth squad when I was 14. Those guys like Mal Bean and Clevie Bade and Charlie Marshall. I was invited to that squad, but I was a bit too young to make that squad. But I eventually, kept in the next squad, the 1980 squad. But at first met Jack, when we used to train with those guys under Coach Trott at the National Stadium. So Coach Trott is also one who is a big influence on what I did come and do at the youth level.
Okay, well, thank you. And Jack, the question about the people that was such great footballers, they didn't actually make it like us, you, Dennis, and myself, about getting 16, like my brother Parks.
I mean, it's a number of guys that started out, but a lot of it came down to, did you have the discipline to stick it out? A lot of those guys didn't. Well, they had the potential, but I mean, Nips was pretty rigid. Nips was pretty rigid. If Nips was like, if you didn't have a job, he's going to find you a job. You couldn't sit around. So he was pretty rigid with how, and we had some guys that they could have been a lot further, but there's like, look, I'd rather go scrimmage, or they picked up on some other things, but it was some good guy. One player and one player that sticks out that was in PHC, that came to PHC, that made a big difference, right, in PHC's team, and stamped some authority, and he was like an outsider, because we just used to have from Warwick. If you weren't from that Warwick Paget area, then Niels Douglas. Niels Douglas came PHC. Look, that's my teammate for life. But he came and stamped himself in the team, and definitely, like Dennis said, it was some underrated players, But I don't really want to talk about those guys that didn't stick around. I like talking about the good times, Punchy. I like talking about coming down and playing against you guys.
I got you.
And in my career, Randy was a big encouragement. My brother Randy Bean played with you, right?
Oh yeah.
And as a youngster, I remember, right, when Village won the triple, I was just starting to break into PHC's team, and Randy had me with North Village going around celebrating. But that's just how it was.
Yes.
Everybody, it wasn't. That's how it was. Like, hey, we went to games, we battled.
That's right.
We went to games, we battled, and as I say to some of the youngsters on the job, look, I can go from Ireland Rangers all the way down to RAA, right? And I can name you good players. Every team in this country had at least 15 to 18 good players that played. And I just think about going up the beach and bumping into Tuba and some of the guys from Cougars, and we're running hard up that beach. It didn't matter who you bumped into, village people, everybody went up there. They go, everybody. Guys trained. We put in our time, and everybody was up the beach running. And the little yard kicks and just going town and playing some football. And then when it came to playing football, you know, playing against Dennis, playing against Somerset. Hey, look, I have some good memories of even St. George's. You remember when St. George's had like 7 or no, it was even more than that. Had like 9 left-footed players playing on the Roddy Birchall.
Mm-hmm.
Deadly.
Right.
A problem. All them left-footed. Stevie Dixon, Kenny Perman, Josh. This guys. They had a good little run too. You know, I remember playing hotels one night, and what on 3-0, and Niels put some licks on us, put some more licks on us at the half, and came out the second half. Mupp got a head trick. We beat them like 6-3. Look,
Yeah.
and we could look. I can remember going down St. David's and getting 5 from North Village. I can remember going up Somerset and getting 5 from Somerset, and Michael Lopes, who was in the youth team with me and used to compete for right back. Mike Lopes scored a goal from down in his garden against
Yeah.
Alan Douglas.
Yeah, I remember that.
It seemed like he struck it from down in his garden, right? When
I remember that.
was the goal, right?
Yep.
Those were some good times. And those are some of the losses. But it was sometimes when, they gave us 5. We'll give them maybe 4-1, you know, or we just edge them out, you know. But those were, and hey, you just had to live to fight another day, you know. And who could forget the Tuesday nights at PHC for a double header?
Oh,
Yes,
Who
exactly.
could forget that?
Yes.
If you weren't there by 6:45, you needed a block, or you better stand on a barrel or something, because you couldn't
Right.
get, the crowd was 3 to 5 deep. Huh? Who could forget going National Stadium, coming out the whole bank? Huh? 5,000-6,000 people. Hello? And that wasn't just for international matches, that was for cup finals. Huh? Look, come on, man. Come on. Look, look, the era, the era explains it for itself. And I try to tell these little young guys, like, look at the football book. Look at the amount of people that used to come to games. And look at the players. Look at the shape of the players. You're not no little fat boys playing football.
That would be,
You couldn't come on if you weren't in shape. That's like Dennis and Dennis and Punchy. You couldn't come. You couldn't come against PHC. You couldn't come against PHC because Ellie Wilson was a bully, right? And I will put him. There was a lot of guys that were into Rangers. Had Terry. It was a lot of guys that done physical training, like Ellie. But Ellie Wilson for PHC, I have to speak about him because he got us into shape. Man, like people be like, they're coming out 25 minutes before the game. We ran, we done push-ups, we done sit-ups, we done a whole lot of stuff. Because Ellie was like, guess what? They're like, they already ran for 25 minutes. They're not gonna run for 90. Well, guess what? When the other teams 50, 60 minutes, Nips used to say 50, 60 minutes, well, when that turn, we're just warming up. Yeah, because Kenny and Sammy and Kevin and Buller and Frankie and Rango and I'm going on the left. Randall Burke, he didn't overlap as much, but he was good when defending and he's a good passer of the ball, good stopper. I was up and down like a winger. I was up and down like a winger because they taught me to be an attacking, and that was, you know what? I remember watching Somerset, as Dennis would say, Rudy Miners. He used to play fullback. I used to I used to like watching Somerset and Rudy Miners. Oh, and what's the other guy that played up there? Not Chipper.
Clarence Chipperson.
Rudy Smith. Didn't Rudy Smith play fullback too, Dennis?
No, Clarence Simon. Rudy was like Clarence Chipperson.
Clarence
That's
Simon. Oh, look. Oh my gosh. I used to like those guys for me, right? Those guys for me, they were like pace setters for the overlapping fullback. And
Gotcha.
and that's I my game was built across that, and then with the encouragement of my youth team coaches and Nips, like, look, you once you got over that halfway line, and he showed me how to play balls on the edge of the end and hit this diagonal balls. And then when I got in the attacking third, you know what he taught me is once I got over the half line, I'm now to think like I'm going to think like a forward, and I'm going to play those balls in. I'm going to get some balls in. I'm going to smash some balls across. I'm going to hit these spaces. You know what? Something that's Memphis always got down on that, got down in the attacking third.
Jack, you're breaking up. Jack,
You're breaking up,
Play
Jack.
that ball.
Yeah.
Hit that ball.
Harris, you're breaking up. So, Dennis, real quick, I know Punch has got more. What would be considered your most memorable match against PHC?
Woo! We had a lot. Probably my most memorable one was the one Jack talked about, the first league game of the season at Somerset. PHC, I believe this year they won the league. We ended up beating them 5-0. The first game of the season. I can still remember right up to today. Kenny Thompson played a ball with the outside of his right boot into the space for Coolidge Bumble Bell to run onto like in the first few minutes. Same game, like you talked about, Michael Lutz scored that goal from about 30 yards, at the back post. That was probably my most memorable win. My most memorable loss against PHC was the Dudley final at the National Stadium, whereby at that time they had two legs. This game here, we were actually leading 3-1. Going into like the last phase of the match, and the match ended up being PHC ended up coming back to tie the game 3-3, and the game ran into penalty kicks. Nobody couldn't win on the penalty kicks. It got dark at that time. The National Stadium didn't have lights, so we couldn't use lights. So the game ended up being a draw at that time, and then they decided to toss a coin, and then Somerset were unlucky not to really toss. But that's probably one of my most memorable games, because that game went back and forth. I remember PHC going up 1-0, we came back 1-1, 2-1, 3-1. Thought we had it, but at the end of the day, PHC were always a team that never laid down. No matter if they're down 4-1, 5-1, they're still gonna come at you. So those are probably my best two most memorable games against PHC.
Let me just quickly ask Jack the same thing. Jack, can you list your memorable matches, a win and a loss against Somerset?
Well, the 5, I had never forget. I could never forget. I could never forget the 5. That 5, oh boy, up Somerset. the Dudley Eve that was because yeah, the Dudley Eve up National Stadium, that one sticks out, and I was there when Mop and we guys went to the tours, and we won the tours, but yeah, for like comeback, yeah, comeback. I can remember playing against Randy Horton down at PHC, and us getting kicked out of the FA because Benavides hadn't played. I think you had to play prior FA game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You had to play, right.
Yeah.
And we won. And we got kicked out. That's a memorable one. And Randy Horton, I remember playing against Horton down there and getting stepped around as a little boy. But yeah, but that's I remember being the FA finals when the year we went on and won the FA finals and playing against Warwick, and Al James was my gym teacher. And I was playing down the back, playing down center back, and getting slapped around by my gym teacher too. But we won. But there's some. It's a lot of memorable. There's a lot of good memories of and is a lot of games. Like even like Northfish, like I tell you, it was so many teams. Like even battling with St. George's, like, oh man, when I see those guys, we guys still reminisce. Well, that's all my life is now, reminiscing of the good years. Yeah, from the football side.
Yes.
And it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to see Punchy, and well, it's always a pleasure to see just about all the guys that play football.
Yeah. Very true.
It's just it's just good memories, And then the national team players, I get to bump into Arnold West every so often, and he's still talking, when we travel with the national team, and it's always a pleasure to see your youth team members, Philip Smith and Mel and Stevie and Charlie and Pookie's rest in peace. But it's always a pleasure. Marvin Campbell, look, the names. Remember Erwin Emery, right? It just goes on, and on, and it's just like wow, So I appreciate you guys for inviting me. Like I'm smiling for the rest of the week. You guys are big.
Well, if you don't have to go nowhere, we can stay for a while because I know Punches.
I got a question. I got a question. I'll wait till you come back to you go to commercial. I got a question for both of them. A couple of questions. Hey, Dennis. I'll start with you first. Dennis, have you recorded how many goals you actually scored? Because being a center half, you probably scored more goals than me, and I was attacking winger.
Okay.
You probably got more goals than me statistically. I bet you, Jack. I don't know. Do you know exactly? Because as always, when the Mid Ocean News was on, you remember you had the Mid Ocean News.
Yes.
Right. And then they also the Warwick said so. Then you also see Brown secures win for Somerset. Like, how many goals did you actually score, Dex?
Okay.
And Jack. And the other thing I want to ask, the other question I want to ask both of you, what was it like being captain? Because I know, Jack, you were captain of PHC too. What did it hold on your shoulders as being captain at the time when our era of football was more? Let me see if I can make this right. More gentleman-like. I know you had to play a special role. I've never been a captain of any team. Trust me, never. So what was it like for you guys?
Okay, I would say.
You gotta give me statistics, but Dennis, you gotta give me statistics first. You and Jack, how many goals you scored? Because I can tell you, I ain't got much. You scored more goals than me. You should have been a center forward, both of you.
Your first question about the goals I scored. I have a scrapbook going back and thanks so much thanks to Conrad Lister. Conrad Lister did a scrapbook of me from primary school right on through to when I finished playing Premier Division, even when I started coaching, and took all the headlines from the newspapers, Somerset stuff, and counting the goals that I scored, because I actually did that. I counted the goals that I scored from the time I played, because I played from 16, but I retired at 28. And I had scored like 76 goals from the time, and I had to shake my head when I came to the number, but it was actually 76 goals that I scored, came from the center half position. A lot from corners, and I never really took free kicks. I took penalties and stuff like that. So, I always took pride in the fact that, like Marcus Douglas, a threat to the opposition, although, playing at the back, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that was one of my highlights. And like I said, thanks to Conrad Lister. He kept all the headlines and gave me 2 big scrapbooks of my footballing career. That was it for me. 76 goals.
And Jack?
No, I never kept count of goals.
Right.
He's an assist man.
Okay.
I would like at PHC. At PHC, I was more like a provider, like corners, free kicks.
Okay.
Getting that ball forward. I do remember scoring against Ray. Like one thing I will brag about is at Devonshire Rec, one Christmas, Racing Club Haiti, played National Stadium with PHC. We took 5. The Tuesday night, they played the youth team, and we beat them out the rack. I scored overlapping, scored a goal, and Malbian scored the winner. So we came from behind and beat Racing Club of 82-1 out the rack. Scored some other goals that I remember. BAA. Scoring and sending hotels, so somebody done, can't remember one of these teams, but
yeah. So today,
I didn't have to be the one to be scoring a lot of goals. My thing was playing to our strengths. That Nips emphasized that we play to our strengths, and that's what we done. And I excelled at being, I always try to be the best overlapping fullback in Bermuda. At PHC, I played numerous positions on the field. It seemed like to me, and took me a long time to understand that. And Nips made me realize that, guess what? You're good enough to play all those positions. Left back, center midfield, right midfield. I played all this right behind the strikers. Just be the provider. So yeah. That's it.
And that question, the second question I want to ask you, in the captaincy, because like I said, Jack, I know you've been captain of PHC, and Dennis, I know for a long time you were captain of Somerset, and I think you were captain of Somerset at a young age. What was it like then? What was that mental like? What did they carry? Because we all have our lives outside of football, with amateurs. So what was it like? Because I know for that time, captaincy meant so much as respect. Players, if they saw you doing something bad, they're not gonna follow. They're not gonna play that well. They're not gonna follow you on the field. So what was it like? Well, such a young age. What was it like for you guys being captains at these clubs?
I was groomed very early to be a captain. My captaincy career started at Wesleyan Primary School. I was captain of Wesleyan. And then, like I said, I was fortunate enough to train with the junior or the bantam team at 10 years old. And then by the time I was 12 years old, I was actually the captain of Somerset's bantam team at 12 years old. By the time I was 14, I was captain of the under 18 team. And then, like I said, I played at 16 got into the first team at 16. And by the time I was 18, I was made the captain of Somerset's first team. But I would say all that wouldn't have happened without the guidance of Trix Richardson, who was in the first team then, George Brangman, who I took over the captaincy from, who was still in the first team there to groom me to be the captain. I was captain from the age of 18 to like 27 years old. We were on a lot in that time, but at the end of the day, to me, to be the captain of the team that I grew up idolizing meant the world to me. The thing about being a captain is the captain has to really set the example for his teammates. The captain has to be an extension of the coach on and off the pitch. So you have to really set an example. So one of the examples, and I always like this right up to today, is the players shouldn't wait for the coach to tell them to warm up and stuff like that. That should be part of the responsibility to make sure that his players stay in line. I was the type of captain if I wasn't really satisfied with some of the performances of the players, because I set an example for my players most times. And I just go best for something to the coach. Yeah, such and such is not working out today. He might need a little rest or something like that. But at the end of the day, a captain has to really set the example and be the extension of the coach on the pitch.
Good. And Jack?
For me, I think being captain at PXC was a grooming time for me. At the time that I came through, I being the captain, I still wasn't a senior player. And remember, I still had Mop and Beaver, Cecil, but we had a lot of the youngsters that were coming in the team. We were establishing ourselves. So for me, when I look back at it, it was, I was a little bit ahead of this guy. So Neil put that authority on me as far as being the captain. But I wasn't the leader of the team. Mop was still the leader of the team when I was captain. But it was grooming because Mop was, he was like my mentor, and he was like pretty much the team's mentor, So it was a learning experience, and that just took me to take on more responsibility. So when it came around to, hey, you're not just a right back, you're a left back, you're a center back, you're a utility player. Get that in your head. You're gonna play where the team needs you. So don't focus on coming to just play where you want to play. And once I got to that level, is that guess what? I'm here for the team. I'm good enough to play wherever the coach plays me. If we didn't have a left-footed player, and I wasn't a left-footed player, but I adopted and improvised, and I just played what was taught to me, So when I look back on all those years and look at the players, the coaching, it's all was developing me to be a better person overall. And then it also helped me remember I started coaching at a young age at PHC. right? And then I took over the Pee Wee program when Lou Trott left, and developed the Pee Wee program, and developing those players. So, and then you get to coach those guys. That's a good feeling too, being able to coach players throughout. And then I went to, remember, I coached at national level and youth level. So Gennaro, and I've touched, a lot of players I've touched, and I feel proud that I'm helped along the way. So football has been some good memories, and it's definitely helped me to help some other teams and players. And I only have, you're not gonna get no bad stuff from me.
Well, I tell you what, I applaud you both, because you always remind me, both of you still remind me of the old school. One player, one team, I think you would say, or one team, one player. I think it's one player, one team. I think, Dennis, you never left to go down to Somerset, did you? No?
No,
I don't think that Jack ever went up. Jack, you never went up to Southampton Rangers, because that was always
right.
The Yankee players didn't even go up the Rangers, and Somerset players go down to Eagles. But I do applaud you both. Just like a lot of us, and I'm so glad we're having these, the show, the first one that Earl invited me on. I'm very glad, because there's so many players that we talk about. I remember Kenny Burt, just how brilliant he was. I mean, the players that Dennis talked about. But it's very important, as Earl and I have spoke about the fact that what's been lost. And I don't think it's really lost. At least we can have a discussion about it. It's not on TV. It's not. We don't have the videos of it. But the memories are there, and so we can speak about it. And it's funny that we're gonna have this conversation about when we were really at one another playing that. Yeah, because I remember just my little history. Can you imagine? I'm 17, getting ready to go up Somerset on Tuesday night to play against Somerset. Butterfly, I couldn't. It's like, geez, I couldn't even go to school. Like, I'm thinking, yeah. So I'm sure you guys had the same thing when Dennis had to come down come down to PH, come down to Devonshire Rec, to play against us. It was like, whoa, the butterflies. So I do. I'm glad we're having this first show about the memories, and we're talking about people that played beside us, that were so influential on our lives on and off the pitch, on and off the pitch. So that's what we're talking. I think what we're talking about here is about this program recognizing the people that really had a real effect on our lives. Yeah. And so that's I'm glad to be a part of it. And Dennis and Jack, I'm so glad to have the first show with you.
Before you guys go, there is a question out there, but I'm going to change it a little bit, because the question is, which referee do you think was the worst? But I'm gonna ask.
Oh wow.
I'm gonna ask, which official would you say helped you both on and off the field to understand the game a lot better and respect it even more? Because back then you had the referees who stood for nothing. I mean, we talked about how we talked about Randy, we talked about Neebs, but these guys were so dominant in what they were doing. So were those referees. Who would stand out for you, Jack?
Pee Wee, Crockle, Smith,
McNeil,
McNeil Smith, Aston Curtis, Charlie Marshall, Tony Cliff. Roddy came a little bit later after he quit. After he quit coaching. But Rex Osborne, I mean, the referees, the referees. I mean, it was I would say the referees were pretty consistent. They didn't take no nonsense. Charlie Marshall was a very good referee. McNeil for me, I really didn't like. He just used to like chirp sometimes. You know, he just used to turn.
But 9 times out of 10, if Punchy weren't playing, he was the shortest man on the field. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad you brought that point. Glad you brought that up. Very much so there.
Croc-
For the referees.
Croc weren't nobody you want to play with either.
yeah, definitely. Dennis?
But those are the referees that like stand out to me, you know. But it was Savory came. I remember Savory coming later. The referees like Nips. I had to go back to my coach. Like we couldn't disrespect the referees, you know. But those guys stand out. They, like you said, the coaches, but they stood their ground and they ref the game. They didn't take no nonsense from none of us. Yeah, and Pee Wee was pretty short until he met Tortoise. Tortoise was looking eyeball to eyeball. He's probably Punchy too. Punchy could look him in the eye. Punchy and they could look each other in the eye.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Memorable.
Yeah. Well, refereeing was if we're in about the referees, we guys used to go to battle, right? It was football, just playing. Yeah. Who's
Dennis, any standouts for you?
Yeah, definitely Pee Wee Crockle. We always had a battle. He was actually my boss on my job in prison. So it was he used to forget about the prison. I used to forget about the prison. And it was always a battle between me and Pee Wee and Brown. But at the end of the day, those guys were consistent, man. They took no nonsense. Any lip, the NU one time, McNeil, I used to call him y'all after the games, I used to call y'all short little lunatic, in good faith, and laughing and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you had to respect those guys. Charlie Marshall, like Jack said, Aston Curtis, no nonsense. Then you had guys like Bantu who came through. It seemed like the short referees really want to really reduce it.
I'm glad you brought that up, Earl, about that. But then that's probably another show sometime. But yeah, their referees are no nonsense, very respectful, no nonsense at all. And I had to deal with quite a few of them. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think they've got to be recognized too. Maybe we have them on the show sometime.
Yeah.
They were great. Good refereeing, very good refereeing, and no nonsense, as both Jack and Dennis have said, no nonsense. And so, good. I brings back so much memories.
Yeah. And just before you go, Earl, I remember Jack said something earlier, man, about the teams that we used to play against, man. Whether it's at that time, it was PHC, Somerset, North Village, Devonshire Coast, Southampton Rangers, St. George's, Hotels, Vasco, Devonshire Cougars, and every team had quality. So you knew if you're playing against PHC, you're coming up against a strike force that, like I said earlier, you need your rest the night before. Kevin, Kenny, Sammy, Rango, Frankie, Jack, Mike Deal, who was like a little gazelle running out your back. Nils Douglas, who was, like Jack said, who was very underrated to me. The young Bert, also Rambo Bert. So you didn't get to be ready for those guys. Rangers, you're playing against Rangers, you're playing against Woodgate, was also a silky center back. Dilly Dick, Mike Byron, Pickles Steve. Then you're going down to, I didn't play too much against Warwick, but then you're going on to Devonshire playing against Cougars, playing against Dago. Dago was one of the most silky midfield players, that I played against. Dago and Tuba, Donnie Hill, and guys like that. Andre Ambry. They played against Derbyshire Colts. Lorenzo, who was his, between him and Wooly were my, favorite guys I played against. You know what I mean? Lorenzo and Jeff Richardson and Jimmy Tweed. You know what I mean? They had quality. St. George's had quality. Hotels had a big physical team.
Yeah.
I can remember my first game playing against Hotels when I was like 16, and I ended up coming off the field 2 black eyes, marking Eddie Simpson up front. Every time I'm going off for a header, he's pushing his head back. I ended up with 2 black eyes. But Hotels were very physical. They had guys, and one of the best midfield players that I played against was for Hotels, a guy called Dennis McQuaid. This guy was from Scotland, and this guy was Dennis McQuaid and Billy Ebley.
Billy Ebley, yeah.
Little dirty, but Billy Ebley was special. Then you had Vasco, and Seymour started coaching Vasco. Vasco had an experienced team, and they had a big guy called Bernie Dixon. Who, you looked at him like he looked like a guy. He didn't even look like a football player.
Nope.
You know what I mean? But once you got him on the pitch, but in those days, man, it was so much quality. And like we said earlier, I just wish we could have a lot of these games taped, so a lot of these guys could see the quality that was on show every week and every game, because in every game you had nothing less than like 2,000 spectators. You know what I mean? So it was pure quality, and I have no regrets about talking about back in the day, because that brings back so much good memories. Even my coaching career. The team I coached 3 teams. Wolves. That brings back beautiful memories. Going on to Wolves and setting the tempo and setting the discipline for these guys. A team that had never won in the senior division. Wasn't easy in the beginning. Going on to Wolves, but hey, they had some talent, and eventually we ended up winning 2 trophies in the senior division. My senior coaching career also took me to Derbyshire Rec. Not much I can say about that. I mean, if it wasn't for Dago Steed and Earl Wilder to make sure that my jaw was a lot easier at the Rec, and then we ended up winning the Triple Crown, and then being back Somerset to finish off my coaching career. So I'm at a good football has been good to me as a player. Football's also been good to me as a coach. I coached briefly at the National Academy. I took the under 17 national team to St. Vincent. We ended up winning our group at that time. You know what I mean? So it's like Jack said, I touched a lot of people, a lot of players, in my coaching and even my playing career. So, it gives me a lot of satisfaction to see a lot of the guys that I've coached, to see how they developed over the years, and it gives me a lot of satisfaction of, how when I played, like Jack said, when we guys see each other, man, it's nothing but, camaraderie and smiles and, crap talk and stuff like that. And it's just nothing but love for, each other, although we had battles against each other back in the day. Nothing but love.
Well, guys, I do want to thank you very much for your time. This is the first, but definitely won't be the last time we won't see you on the show. But we look to continue these walk down memory lanes with Punchy and myself and future guys, just to reminisce about that. I've learned so much. We all of us have had our conversations with each other, but now having a conversation together, I hope it has enlightened a lot of people who's listened and remember the things that you guys are talking about. Well, no matter how big or small it is, it's always good to reminisce about how things used to be and how we've grown together. Although apart, we've grown together on this small island and helped to make football a lot better. So with that, I say good night.
Thank you, brothers.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
guys. Thanks for
All
having
right,
me.
bye.